what is the campaign organization and how these people are going to be involved in decision making, how they're going to be involved in communication, coordination, etc., etc. So these three exercises, or these three processes, are important in building a campaign: planning, implementation, and management. Of course, with this there is another thing which is also a feedback, and this is required for revising plans and enhancing implementation, and also making changes in the management. So that goes without saying almost. Question is, what is the objective of the campaign? In other words, what do we want to achieve with the campaign? Another question is, what is the campaign message? And this question is, what do we want to say in our campaign? How are we going to communicate with the, what is the message that we want to communicate with the target audience? The next question is about tactics, and this question focuses on what do we do, and what are the activities that we're gonna do as part of this campaign. And also another, it's also connected to the methods that we're gonna use to convey the message. What are the tools that we're gonna use if we talk about online campaigns? So are we going to use blogs? Are we going to use Facebook posts? Are we going to use YouTube channels? Are we going to use some other forms of communication? And as with offline tactics, what is important here is to use a method of communicating that is going to be easily accessible by the recipient of the message, by the target audience, which is another way to say, let's go where the people are, rather than try to kind of use an obscure channel of communication and ask them to join us there. So we talked about tactics a little bit, and then we also spent some time talking about organization and resources, and we're going to talk about it later again, because there was one question to focus on that a little further. So we will talk about it a little more, especially when we talk about organizing volunteers. This was specifically this is what the question was about. So how do we make a campaign plan? So of course the previous four questions are the questions that the campaign needs to answer. But again, we need to start somewhere, and the best way to start is actually to do two things. First is to ask ourselves some strategic questions, and also to ask ourselves something about the current situation. So when we talk about strategic questions, this is not so much connected to the campaign plan, but this is an overall strategy of our group, of our organization, of our coalition or informal coalition. But we need to know what is the long-term goal that we want to achieve. If you remember, what is the vision and what are the long-term goals of the movement? Because the campaign needs to be in accordance with these goals, and needs to be actually the campaign needs to bring us closer to those goals when it is successful. Another thing is the question about methods. That's another serious strategic question before we even begin thinking about campaigns, because we cannot talk about tactics in a particular campaign if we don't make a decision on what are the methods that we're gonna use. And one of the most important decisions here, as it was proven many times in history, is a decision to stick to political methods and to use non-violent action as a tool to achieve change, because this deciding to use non-violence as as a method and to use political work as the primary work to achieve political means, achieve political ends, is going to have an impact on the overall campaign. Another thing is the main questions about the structure of the movement or the group that is organizing a campaign. And this is how decentralized, how democratic, how inclusive, and how transparent are we ready to be? Because this is certainly going to have some questions. These questions are certainly going to have some impact on the way we organize and build a campaign.